Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a little short video to include something that I omitted from a longer video that I just put out there. Look for the thumbnail that has this really awesome image from an old ensign on it. This is from May 1972. This is the special Holy Land issue. And I'm doing a deep dive on this. I've already done one deep dive into an article from this called The Future of the Holy Land. If you want that full deep dive, there's a video that I have where on the thumbnail it says a man named David at the top in red letters. And it's titled Latter-day David Part 3 or P3 Holy Land Prophecies. And just look inside of this magazine. This is incredible. I wish I had an actual physical copy of this. I would keep it. It's just got so many good images, tons of great articles. In the video that I'm doing, the deep dive where we dig into some of these articles and I show you more of the things that stood out to me in my studies. I started studying this about 5 or 6 years ago and I go back to it quite a bit. I've added to it. I've added more annotations over the years because there's just a lot of deep doctrine in it. And as I've spent time digging into it, I realize that there are lots of very clear prophecies pertaining to the Holy Land, and I can see how, with regard to that third key appearance of Jesus Christ, where he appears to the Jews on the Mount of Olives, there's a certain view that the church has of what that looks like. So don't be surprised someday if a mission opens up there. That seemed to be something that they foresaw and had prophesied, which we will cover in that video. So I hope you'll check that one out and leave comments. And if you have any other resources to share on it, send them my way, because this is definitely a topic that I'm trying to understand more, particularly with regard to timing, because there seems to be a little bit of an elapsus of time between that third key appearance of Jesus Christ on the Mount of Olives and then when he descends in the cloud with everyone, the hosts of heaven. And I want to be able to dig into that a little bit more. And I'm still kind of like trying to study it, make sense of that. And I have a few ideas, but it's difficult to put it all together. When I do, I'll definitely share it. But for now, I wanted to look at all of these Holy Land prophecies in connection with current events, all the things going on in the Middle East. There's just so much happening. And this teaches the whole history and how prophecy's been fulfilled over time, and then what the future prophecies are. We look at that. I'm pointing out in the video exactly what stood out to me as I was studying this special issue of the Ensign, which was compiled as a study guide. The first presidency of the time, they actually commissioned Daniel H. Ludlow, who's like a big time scholar who helped get that, like pioneer that BYU program that we have, that eventually we were able to get the BYU Jerusalem Center for. But at the time, students used to just go and visit the land and they couldn't really stay there. But he really helped to pioneer that. So remember that quote that Joseph Smith said, Judah must return? This is discussed at length in this Holy Land issue, lots of commentary on that. And this future of the Holy Land is the article that I'm going to pull out just a couple paragraphs, like a couple sections of it in my current video, my most recent one. But if you want the full deep dive on that, then go to that third video in that Man Named David series or Latter-day David series, because we dig into all of these prophecies. They do have a connection to a prophecy about a Latter-day David, and that whole series gives you basically the schools of thought on it. And we look at like the Encyclopedia of Mormonism, several different commentaries by different apostles and prophets over time to be able to understand what that's about. So anyway, I hope you'll check out that video and then the new video that I just did on this really cool special issue of the Ensign about the Holy Land. Now, I want to show you one thing that I left out of that video. So if you look at your Gospel Library app and you go to Lesson 54 in the New Testament Teacher Manual, there is a little note in there that helps you understand that there is a little bit of time elapsing between this time when Jesus steps foot on the Mount of Olives and these two prophets are raised up, and then when he appears to the whole earth in glory. Now, it talks about how the people who are in Jerusalem at the time will see the Savior when he comes, it sounds like there's a group who sees him on the Mount of Olives, and then maybe there's some type of conversion that happens, and then there is some elapsus of time where they help to gather from among the heathen nations or like the surrounding nations that are the non-Christian nations. And then at some point there's this time where the Savior descends in the clouds back to, it sounds like, this same place, and those people who survived to that time and that point in history through all of those trials and struggles will actually see the Savior face to face. That was the way it was coming across to me. And one of those things that helps me see that is this little note here where it's talking about Revelation chapter 11 about the two prophets. And it says that it teaches that following the resurrection of these two prophets, voices in heaven will proclaim the imminent coming of Jesus Christ to reign personally upon the earth. So there's a voice of warning that goes out when this happens. Then those living in Jerusalem at the time of the second coming will have the privilege of meeting the Savior face to face. Now, if you're taking this very literally, then it'll be something like what I just described. If you take it more figuratively, which in my Book of Revelation series, where we're looking at the Book of Revelation as like a temple drama or like a temple text where it's teaching just the plan of salvation in general, then these two prophets could very easily be connected to Joseph Smith and Hiram, and it could be, figuratively speaking, of the restoration and Jerusalem being a symbol for that. Now, most people look at it as figurative language describing literal events. So I think it's helpful just to look at it both ways. And I think either way you look at it, it can shed a little bit of light on, in connection with that lesson 36 in the Doctrines of the Gospel Student Manual about the second coming and those 4 key appearances of Jesus Christ. So it's just something to think about when you're studying. Try to look at it both ways and then just kind of see what comes to your mind and how the Spirit speaks to you, because I think there's just so many things that you can start to connect even across scriptures when you start looking at it both of those ways. Like, think more literal, like in the end time context, like that very last day context where, obviously Joseph Smith's mission is, in his mortal mission is done. And we know that he'll be back for like the winding up scene according to his patriarchal blessing. But there's still this concept that the work goes on. And that's through our current prophet and apostles and all of us as members of the church. So think of it in both of those terms, in both of those contexts, and then see what it says to you. So anyway, I just wanted to add this little note to that other video about this deep dive on the Holy Land issue, and just think a little bit more about the book of Revelation in these two ways. And so this can kind of go with that Book of Revelation series that I'm doing, where I'm trying to give a lot of that collected commentary that I have attached to several verses throughout that book in my annotations. And I've just been sharing all that collected commentary for you guys to be able to benefit from. And hopefully that was helpful. So anyway, just check out those videos. I hope you'll like them. Leave some comments. And, if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe to the channel. I want to try to at least get to maybe like 1,000 subscribers and just try to get some conversation happening in those threads. Anyway, that's all for now.